Okay, so moving on to my second example here, I want to determine the zeros of y is equal to 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus a 2x. Now recognize right away that this polynomial is not factored. So in order to identify the zeros, we must factor it first. So to factor it, take a look at each of your terms here. Do we have anything in common? Yes, we do. The x term is common, so factor out the x. When I factor out the x, what I have left is 2x squared plus 3x minus a 2. Okay, so let's see if we can keep going here. This is a quadratic, so when you factor quadratics, you should set up your PSA charts. So my sum is the positive 3. My product, you have to be very careful here. We have negative 2 times 2, and that is my product. Oh, and that is a negative 4. Sorry about that. Negative 4. So therefore, my two numbers here are a negative 1 and a positive 4. So let's continue on with our factoring here. Y is equal to x times, okay, so we're going to decompose this middle term using these two numbers here. So writing it out, 2x squared minus x plus 4x minus 2. Okay, so let's keep going here. Y is equal to x times, now we want to factor by grouping. So group these two terms and group these two terms. And we're going to factor out anything that is common to those groups. So I'm going to use square brackets here. So looking at the first group, what's common is the x. So factor out the x, and I'm left with 2x minus 1. Taking a look at the second group, I can factor out a positive 2. So factor out positive 2, and what I have left is 2x minus 1. Close it with those square brackets. Continuing on, we have y is equal to x times, okay, so look at our expression right there. What's common to each of these expressions that you could take out? Well, what's common is the 2x minus 1. So factor out the 2x minus 1, and we have our factored form. And what's left is the x plus 2. So there we go. We have just fully factored our polynomial, but we still had to identify the zeros. So to identify the zeros, you're going to set this function equal to 0. So 0 is equal to x times 2x minus 1 times x plus 2. Okay, so now that this is equal to 0, you're going to apply your 0 property, and you're going to set each of your factors equal to 0 to find the x-intercept. So this factor, the second factor, and the third factor all need to be equated to 0. So we have one 0 at x is equal to 0. We have another 0 when 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. So if I solve for x here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I'm left with 2x is equal to positive 1. And finally, we get a 0 of 1/2. Okay, and lastly, we have x plus 2 is equal to 0, which gives me a 0 at negative 2. So these three x values are the x-intercepts of my graph. And that completes our lesson on finding the zeros of the factor form of a polynomial function.